you guys are right here, I'll take them together. Yeah, and then yeah, we'll hear from you too, sir.
Thanks for your visit. It's been a pleasure watching you handle the media. That Dash interview was
Yeah,
great.
well, I try to be as honest as I can.
I at one point wrote you off after I heard that you had ties to a George Soros award,
Which is
of some
false.
sort. Right.
Yeah,
And,
it's amazing how that works, right?
Right. I imagine at the same time too that you weren't paying attention to who was giving awards out at that time.
Yeah, it happens not even been George Soros, but I'll tell you,
Right.
it's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, my question leads into the idea that there is a deep state.
Yes,
George
there is.
Soros is part of that. He's
Yes,
captured our court system,
And Larry Fink, too.
our judicial
Yeah, two of them.
system, and it leads people to believe there's maybe no hope at this point. How can we get the George Soroses out of our politics and maybe reverse the damage that's been done in the court system?
Yeah. Well, the first is it's also cancer that exists in the Republican Party, just so people who understand what he's referring to. When I was 24 years old, there was a scholarship I got, not from George Soros, but from some other guy. It was back in 2010, before I even knew who George Soros was at the age of 24. Some other guy, his last name Soros, was related to him, made some money, has different political views, was dead. And I, took a scholarship that I would take every kid to take. It's a generic one. I've won about 50 scholarships. That was one of them. But politics, and it actually relates to the answer to your question, you know who's been pushing that in an earlier phase of this campaign was one of the super PACs. It's not even the candidate's fault. I don't even blame Ron DeSantis for this. It's his independent super PAC, which itself has imploded under the corruption of its own. For all I know, they shortchanged him too. That's the cancer on American politics. And actually, that's what George Soros uses to control the Democratic Party. So we used to have campaign contribution limits. We effectively, on both sides of the aisle, let those go out the window to say, yeah, we have campaign contribution limits, except if it's a super PAC, you can give unlimited amounts. And in some cases, even anonymously. That's poison. It's corruption. I've said this before, I'll say it again. End the super PACs. And the problem is the Republicans are actually the ones who are addicted to it. So you think that there's a problem with the left. If you actually want to trace the history of this, it's even a little bit more sordid. The left actually used to call for this before 2010, and the Republicans are the ones who opposed it. So then that's when the George Soroses of the world said, okay, well, if you can't beat them at their own game, if you can't actually change the game, beat them at their own game. And that's exactly what happened. So end the super PACs, and then as it results to the say, co-conspirator here, it's Larry Fink and the woke industrial complex. The ESG movement is manipulating our money to do through the back door of corporate America what they couldn't get done through the front door. That's actually because that's allowed the deep state, that's the one that gives them government money, to do that with in the first place. Put an end to that as well. Those two things, I have a deeper understanding than most. I've written the book about the ESG, written 2 books about the ESG movement in this country, started the leading anti-ESG competitor, it's a firm called Strive, to compete against BlackRock. So I understand this, but I try to do as much as I could through the private sector. But the reality is the head of the snake is none other than that federal bureaucracy. And the right answer isn't to get in there and reform it. That's what some people will tell you. You can't reform it. It's like an 8-headed hydra. You cut off one of its heads, it grows right back. You have to cut it at its core. Strike it at its core and gut it. Get in there and shut it down. And sometimes there's a risk, am I not cutting enough too much fat, or am I cutting too much that I might cut too much muscle? That's the risk we have to take. I'd rather cut too much that we cut muscle and then bring back whatever we overcut than to not cut enough at all. That's what we need to do. 75% mass firing as soon as I get there. 8-year term limits for every federal bureaucrat. End the super PACs. No trading of individual stocks if you're in Congress. No becoming a lobbyist if you've worked in the government, either in Congress or in the bureaucracy. No joining the boards of a company if you've been a regulator of that company. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, both do it. Put an end to the corruption. And it takes somebody who isn't bought and paid for by that same system to actually do it. And somebody earlier today encouraged me, tell people how much money you've been putting in this campaign so people know. I don't like to boast about this stuff or whatever, but just, we put in tens of millions of dollars, close to $30 million of our own family's hard-earned money into this campaign. And we're going to stop at nothing because I would rather spend our money or be it free than to be somebody else's circus monkey. And the dirtiest little secret is a lot of those people are equally now using Republicans to accomplish their same goals. So that's where this road ends. End the corruption and we get our country back.